still too good.
Yeah, he was. He's a good horse. He's a good stayer. Paid a lot of money for him, so he wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, congratulations, Brett,
Thanks.
and it's a great effort. Good on you, mate.
A look of absolute delight on the face of Brett Preble as he crossed the line, and why wouldn't there be? Because Jack Purtell is regarded as one of the greatest riders in the history of horse racing in this country, and Brett Preble has now established a mark that beat even the deeds of the great Jack Purtell. What a wonderful carnival it's been. He's riding in magnificent style. David Hall is training in magnificent fashion, and Zerpoor is running very quickly, and he'll be a top chance next week in the Sandown Classic. Runners return to scale now. The numbers there after race 8, 2, 4 and 1. We'll be back with the weight signal, the dividends and the presentation after the running of the Queen Elizabeth Stakes on this very important day for Australia after this.
Well, it's getting towards the end of the carnival, but he really rode that one home. Still found the energy for that. Brett Preble with the record, and a terrific win. That really is a terrific win. Zerpoor, and you reckon he didn't know he got the record too. Here's the weigh-in with Mr. Gleeson for the second last time during the Melbourne Cup Carnival. Of course, the Spring Carnival continues. We've got one race to go. That is the Clemenger BBDO plate. Weights right, though, on the Queen Elizabeth. Danny Malecki, the dividends, please.
Zerpoor got out to good odds, $7.10 and $2.20. 4 Idiati, $2.70, and 1 Cronus at $1.50. The Quinella was $25, Exacta $58.60, Trifecta $152.20, Running Double paid $34.20 in the market, but continued to drift because the uncertainty of whether it handled the track. They won't have that problem next time, though, Tim Gossage.
Certainly not, Dan. It was a little bit late specking for Zerpoor, but was a massive drifter for most of the market. They left the money in the bag with Cronus, though. It was clearly the best back runner in the race. In the last, I reckon Typhoon Barney's over the line. It's opened up very short. On the tote, about 5-2. Much shorter here in the ring, the Barney, Peter Donegan.
Yeah, Typhoon Barney will be very hard to beat. Tim Gossage in the last. Did you think so, Jennifer?
Oh, for sure. Definitely. His last win was terrific. He came from last to first, and it was a good effort. He loves the wet tracks and the 1400 here at Flemington, so he's going to be extremely hard to beat, Pete.
Should just repeat again, there are a couple of late scratchings. Number 6, Northern Song, and number 12, Lord of the Pines. And we gave you the riding change for number 8, Fashion News. Stephen Baster goes on that, replacing Grant Cooksley. And there are the tote figures for the final event, with Typhoon Barney coming up at $3.50 as the favourite. Go the Greys in contention at $7.30, $4.80 for Lord Kingston. And then we've got $13 for number 7, Sorrento. Also in the betting, number 9, Anxiety Attack, and there's been a riding change there earlier in the day. Jim Collett takes the ride, and it's on $10, $12 for number 10, Slavonic, and of the others on the second page of betting, the best of those is number 15, Mystic Morse. So we need the trifecta for the last, Jen.
All right, I put in Mystic Morse at nice odds there to run second, number 15, and number 9, Anxiety Attack for third. So 5, 15 and 9.
Well, I reckon we're going to be unanimous Typhoon Barney here, because as you can see, Richard and I tipped a Northern Song at the start of the day, but it has since been a late scratching, so I'm going for Typhoon Barney now. And why don't we make an executive decision and say Richard's going for Typhoon Barney, so we will have unanimous 6.
I think so, and I think he's a very good chance in this.
Okay, shortly we'll have the presentation after the running of the Queen Elizabeth Stakes to the connections of Zerpoor. And if it does go towards the Sandown Classic next week, it's going to be some sort of field, because as we spoke about, Bart Cummings is aiming Rogan Josh towards that race now.
Gee, he travelled in that race, didn't he? He was never going to lose. It was a terrific effort, and the horse is racing in great heart. And we weren't sure about him on the soft track, but gee, he made a mess of them.
Let's have the presentation after race 8. Once again, here's our Master of Ceremonies, Rob Gaylard.
Thank you, Pete. Presentation times for the Queen Elizabeth Stakes, and well, a young man writes himself into the record books here in racing in Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce to you the Vice Chairman of the VRC to begin our presentations, Mr. Rod Fitzroy.
The 46th running of the Queen Elizabeth Stakes has proved remarkable, not just for the win of Zerpoor, but for the feats of its trainer and jockey. But it is now my pleasure to present the trophy to the winning owner, Mr. David Weeks, on behalf of his fellow owners. Thank you.
Rod Fitzroy there presenting the trophy to the connections of Zerpoor, and we might see if we can have a word to the man who has broken that record, that amazing record that has stood for so long in the 50s. The Jack Purtell rode 8 winners over the carnival. Roy Higgins was saying earlier that he has ridden 7, and Brett Prebble has now ridden 9. What an incredible performance it is, especially from a man, Jen, who was in hospital for a fair bit of this year after having a shocking fall at Sandown earlier.
Yes, he's just riding in great form at the moment, and as David Hall said, he's only 22 years old, so he is certainly the star of the future.
He is the star of the day, Brett Prebble, and with a bit of luck, Tim, we might be able to have a chat to him between now and the running of the last race.
All right, Pete, thank you very much. Emirates Stakes Day winding down to a close. Melbourne Cup Carnival winding down to a close, but one to go. Could be the Get Out Stakes for you. It is for a few of us in here. We'll take a break. Come back shortly.
Like Battle Heights, and I was very shooting because he got the break. He came away with about $2.50 massive odds, and yeah, I got Jacks.
Very first in 1937, Peter. It's very vivid because I made an excuse to leave school so I could run down the street to home to hear the Trump win the Melbourne Cup. And just as I got in the doors, Jim Carroll's voice came out and said, they're off in the Melbourne Cup of 1937. The best news was I had a shilling on.
My first memory was probably What a Nuisance with, I forget the name of the Kiwi horse going head and head. That's right, head and head up the straight to the post. I was there that day. I watched it from about the 500 metre mark, and it was just, you know, just amazing.
Yes, all got our memories of Melbourne Cups gone by, and what a marvellous carnival it always is. In fact, there's a lot of history attached to the Melbourne Cup. In fact, to this very racecourse has been around for a very, very long time, and one of the more tragic moments that this racecourse has seen, and gee, it's one of the saddest things I've ever seen. We always remember the winners of the Melbourne Cup, but the losers tend to fade into memory. This one never will, because the day he started favourite in the Melbourne Cup was the day he never finished it.
1979, the year tragedy rode at Flemington. In the lead up to the Cup, from the bars to the betting rings, one name dominated conversation: Dulcify. He was bought as a colt by Colin Hayes 2 years earlier in New Zealand. Hayes saw something special, a horse with a $3,000 price tag with priceless potential.
Dulcify on the outside, charged up Brad Caraman, and Dulcify is coming away to win the Derby. Dulcify scores by a length and a half. Caraman in third place, Turf Ruler.
By 79, Dulcify was a champion. Victory in the Australian Cup, McKinnon Stakes, and a 7-length stroll to the post in the Cox Plate.
Dulcify brilliantly wins the Cox Plate by 6 lengths.
On Cup Day, only brave punters bet against him. A 3-to-1 favourite.
Light on, and they're off to a great start, and on the inside, Rough and Tough was the first to jump out from Salamander. Carew commenced well, and so also did Red Nose, and dropping in behind them, Dulcify.
What followed is etched into the dark side of Cup history. Galloped on near the halfway mark, Dulcify fought on, but nearing the home straight, Brent Thompson pulled him up.
Where's Dulcify? He's broken down. Dulcify has broken down, the favourite in the Melbourne Cup.
Hours later, he was put down. A broken pelvis and broken dreams for Connections.
It was the greatest horse I've trained, so he was killed in this race.
The Bart Cummings trained Hyperno won the race. A record for jockey Harry White. His 4th Cup triumph.
Hyperno on the outside, and Salamander, Hyperno, Salamander, they hit the bunny finish. Nearly a dead heat between Hyperno and Salamander.
But among the celebrations, tears. 1979, the year when the loss of one horse overshadowed a win.
Yes, certainly impossible to forget that. That was a very sad year. But we turn our attention now, of course, to next year, to the year 2000, another century. And this racecourse has already seen many changes over the years. In fact, next year, the new grandstand will be up and running. That attracts even more people here. And many more changes, I guess, will happen to Flemington over the next few years. Let's turn our minds back and see what's happened to it over the last 50 or so.
Once every year in November, Australia is swept by a voluntary attack of cup fever. On the great day of the Melbourne Cup, the nation's offices and industries momentarily come to a halt as everyone tries to pick the winner. Preparations are underway to make Cup Day of '62 the biggest ever. Already more than £1 million has been spent on improvements to accommodation and facilities. During the carnival, a helicopter service will operate from the city and Essendon Airport. VRC committee man Fred Gilder has banded together many civic and commercial organisations to make it a carnival of fashions, flowers and favourites. These charming guests have arrived for a preview of preparations. At Flemington, the large gardening staff have planted over 250,000 spring annuals. Imagine the planning to ensure that all these will bloom on time. So many seedlings are required that the course has its own extensive nursery. Here's something new. The first escalator ever installed on a racecourse in Australia. Makes it easier to carry one's winnings back to the stand. To satisfy a punter's thirst, there are 27 bars, inappropriate decor.
Don't you just love that old footage? It's absolutely fantastic. Yes, memories of the Melbourne Cup. Peter Donegan, you would have plenty. You've been coming for a very long time. I remember 1961 because I was only 10, but I remember my dad coming home absolutely happy as, and also full as, having backed Lord Fury. Now, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. I think one of the oldest horses to win the Melbourne Cup in '61.
I'm not exactly sure how old he was, Tim, but I know that Ray Selkirk rode him, Lord Fury, back in 1961, and yeah, I've got some great memories of it. First one I saw was 1970, and we were just having a look at the piece about Dulcify, Tim, and I just said to Jen, that is the saddest day I think I've ever spent at the races. It was just awful. You were here too, Jen?
Yes, I was here. I was actually up near where it happened as well, so it was awful.